relationship with the white working class. It's finished, it's over, it's done.
Responding to the mass protests and riots recently in the UK, Elon Musk wrote on his platform X that civil war is inevitable. Do you agree with him?
No. But what I do think we're going to see is sustained inter-ethnic conflict. I don't think it's full-scale civil war, but I think we're going to see increasing clashes between ethnic groups, Hindu and Pakistani, Hindu Muslim, and I'm afraid between whites and everybody else. What we've really got to understand is that we've had a public policy which has tried to keep enforced silence. I'm an example of it. My own cancellation. There's been a deliberate attempt ever since Enoch Powell's River of Blood speech, the language of which was overblown, but the points that he made were absolutely true and are being proved true even as we speak now. Unfortunately, the decision was taken that you simply shut people up. If you do not debate a question, if you do not discuss it, if you do everything you can to make it undiscussable, then I'm afraid it's like a sore in the body. It's an untreated wound. It becomes deeper and deeper and more septic until finally it bursts horribly to the surface. And I'm using a deliberately foul metaphor because what's going on now is foul. Threatening to burn people alive, which is what it amounts to, is monstrous. That sort of rioting is monstrous. But the fact that it's monstrous doesn't mean that there are not real reasons for it. And it's all very well. Starmer is a natural authoritarian. And one of the things we need to talk about, he presents himself as a policeman. We've never had a prime minister who presented himself as a policeman before. We had a great prime minister, Robert Peel, who invented our police force, but with the deliberate idea it was not by force, it was not by violence, it wasn't by water cannons, it was by consent. It wasn't neo-military, it wasn't an army of occupation. And Starmer, of course, represents that worst, that, as in so many other ways, continental tendency. And he is every single thing he says, he does, everything that Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, does, makes things worse.
Do you think that multicultural societies can survive without authoritarianism?
Generally not. I mean, the great example is Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia, an intensely ethnic country in the Balkans, positively flourished under a communist dictatorship. It was the poster boy for communism under Tito. The moment you try to introduce democracy, then there is the problem, because each group then pits itself against every other group. And can we just again, very seriously, Stephen, we're talking about a tragedy. We're talking about a profound world-scale tragedy, which is why Elon Musk's language is not inappropriate. The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, the most gentle, homogeneous society that has ever existed. Why we did not need identity cards, why there are extraordinarily low levels of crime, such high levels of public trust. That has been destroyed. It has been deliberately destroyed by Tony Blair and New Labour with this absurd notion that they were going to force us to become multi-ethnic for our good. They were going to rub the noses of the whites in the dirt. And sorry, we've got to understand that. It is an act of such inconceivable national self-harm.
You mentioned rubbing the